Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to RaceSpot TV, and welcome back to the Radical Esports Cup. This is the 12th and final round of this season, coming to you today from Interlagos. My name is Ron Mons. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Jeremy Scott. Ramiro Augustine Cisneros is our producer for tonight's broadcast. After 12 weeks of racing action, this official season all comes down to this. It has been a brilliant ride here in season 2 of 2025 for the Radical Esports Cup, but to round this season off to a conclusion, we head to one of the most storied racetracks of them all, Interlagos. It was the host of the Radical World Finals last year in 2024, and here in 2025 it plays host of the season finale from what has been a brilliant racing season here, Jeremy.
It really has, and we saw last week in Mount Panorama how good the racing has been. We mentioned that last week was a drafting track, but we think that this season's going to be, this race, I should say, is going to be even more of a passing track. So many good racetracks on the schedule. Always fun to watch these SR10s run in anger, whether it be in person or here on the Radical E-Cup Series.
And it has been a fantastic ride up to this point, but here's how it looks with only a couple days left to go in this season, in this final week of this championship. Rafa Blanco has been able to jump into the championship points lead over our reigning champion of Havard Gullikson. Looking very good for Rafa Blanco to seal the deal and become your champion here in the Radical E-Cup in season 2 of 2025. 1754 is the amount of points he's on at the present moment. Gullikson slide right behind at 1,690. Andre Castro has had a very good season up to this point with a slew of race wins in these Friday 2100 GMT broadcasted races. Slotted in third, James Berry, George Gonzaga round at your top 5. Right behind them is their teammate of Andreas Friedrich. Heinz Braun slotted in 7th, Kettle Larson and P8, Sally Ryan and Christopher Yanakis round at your top 10 in the point standings. Coming into the final few races of this season, it's been a wild ride up to this point. We've had some absolutely brilliant racetracks, but this is going to be the one that I was looking forward to the most. Interlagos has just about everything that makes a good track for these SR10s. Brilliant sweeping bends, some very long flat out blasts that give us that fantastic slipstreaming game, and also some very good heavy braking zones to try and go for some sense.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see, especially since, it's the end of the season. So you want to get your best result here so you can go out on a high and get ready for next season as well. All right, now we're watching qualifying on track, but yeah, this is such a fun track. Always a great place to end the season. Always loved when Formula One would end their season here because so much drama could be packed into one racetrack. Would I prefer the old layout? Oh yeah, of course, that was such a great layout. I think we'd have even more drafting, but this is such a fun layout as well. As Max Goff is on track, half second off our fastest driver. No surprise here, Rafa Blanco with a 28.7.
And Rafa Blanco, as we follow him, heading his way off through one of the final corners around this racetrack. From here on, it is flat out. And for the driver currently on that provisional pole, he's looking to end this season off on style. James Berry, on the other hand, slotted in P2, set to join him on the front row as it stands presently. He's looking to have a good end to this season. James Berry, the 4-time champion from past seasons here in the E-Cup and your reigning Radical European champion, hasn't had a fantastic run of fortune here in season 2 of 2025. In fact, in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races, he has yet to grab a race win up to this point in this season. But James Berry is quick. He's a very skilled racing driver, and I have a feeling that he may be a driver that we need to keep tabs on throughout this race.
We'll see what happens with that. As we are watching cars, well, not really watching cars waiting to qualify. Rafa Blanco, yeah, James Berry the fastest so far with a 28.5. Jorge Gonzaga on course for the Inter E Racing team as Heinz Braun goes up to third. Look at the gap, though, right there from first all the way down to 4th place, Ron. Less than 1/10 of a second separate our top 4. This is going to be a fantastic race.
Oh, it is going to be absolutely brilliant here today as a checkered flag is out in this qualifying session, so we can get that starting grid loaded up for you in just a couple of moments. Time for the final race of this brilliant season here for season 2 of 2025, and hopefully all of you tuning into this broadcast on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network will be able to enjoy the final round of this championship. So let's get that starting grid loaded up so we can set the picture for what is going to be a brilliant end of this season. And it's going to be James Berry starting this race from the pole. John Boda, for a standout star in the Radical Americas series that he can catch on Sundays here on Race Spots, will join him on the front row. Heinz Braun will start this race in third. Alongside him will be Sebastian Lipp. Rafa Blanco, championship leader coming into the final few days of this season, is slotted in P5 alongside series veteran George Gonzaga. In P7 will be Myron Ianni. In P8 will be Kim-Andre Bjorklund. Jared Dunkovich, another standout star from the Americas series, slotted in 9th. Kettle Larson rounds at your top 10. It will be Max Goff in P11, Chris Wetz in 12th. And looking through the final few starters in this race is Packy Caruso. Alongside him will be Gordon Haug. Andres Friedrich and Andrew Lugg will round out your 16-car starting grid that's set to take the green flag here in a couple of moments' time. Looks like just about everyone has already lined up on the starting grid, bracing themselves for what is going to be a wild and wacky run down into turn number 1 around this racetrack. Super easy to misjudge the brakes in these very tricky to handle race cars, and plus with cold tires as well off the standing start, it is going to be a real tough test for these racers as the green flag's out for the final time this season and the drivers are on their way. That's a pretty good start there from James Berry. Gonna lead them off into turn number 1, covering it off on the inside as he swoops his way into the turn. Side-by-side racing going on throughout a vast majority of the field, but James Berry looking to impress in the final round of this championship, off to a flyer.
And no surprise, we saw how quickly he got up there to the front in qualifying as he goes and does the bob and weave coming off of the third corner. So keep in mind that that might be the strategy for some of these drivers as 1, 2, 3 cars go off wide. Of course, no real worry about track limits here, as you see in some of the FIA support races. One car off the back.
That's Friedrich, Andreas Friedrich in the 3-car with a massive slide, heading his way out of turn number 5. That could have been a pure disaster for him. He's dropped down like a stone through the field, but is still keeping that car going. I'm not sure if he even knows how he was able to keep that car going and keep it out of the wall. It's side-by-side racing for P2. On the other hand, those Heinz Braun and John Bodefer bring us to a good scrap, heading all through the mid-sector of this racetrack. Looks like Bodefer is going to jump into an uncontested P2, but Andres Friedrich stealing the show and not in a good way.
No, and Gordon Haig falling down the order. Yeah, that was a heck of a save. Can't wait to see that on replay, but this battle for second really heating up between Bodefer, Braun, and Lipp. Lipp trying to lick his wounds after last weekend in his race early in the chase at Mount Panorama, as we see Bjorklund also falling through the order. Caruso as well. So what's happened is we see some cars going right into the pit. That's Blanco, your points leader, and Kettle Larson also going into the pits.
Now, it should be noted, Havard Gullikson not on track for this race, which is a little bit shocking. Could be the reason why Rafa Blanco is maybe feeling a bit less stressed out about having to make a run through pit lane. I wonder if there's any sort of contact at the very beginning of this race that has sent him down pit lane. Looking through, I don't believe there's any sort of outstanding penalty to him either, so not really sure why those two have made that call to come down pit lane. But regardless, James Berry holding on to a 1.2-second lead nearly between himself and John Bodefer. Heinz Braun rounding at your podium in third is Sebastian Lipp and George Gonzaga running in 4th and 5th respectively. Sebastian Lipp, the brother of Christoph, who was your 2024 Radical Sim Racing World Finals champion, and one of those World Finals races took place at this exact same racetrack. As we take a look at that moment at the top of the hill, Kim-Andre Bjorklund with a big amount of drama between him and another racer. Not sure who else was involved in that drama, but Kim-Andre Bjorklund getting spun right in front of the field.
Yeah, that's not a good place to spin right there. Thankfully, everybody able to move on, whether it's right into the pits or whatnot. We're looking at Heinz Braun right now, is sitting there in third place, falling back off a little bit from Bodefer, as Bodefer now holds on to that second in good position. And yeah, not only do you have to give an applause to everybody who's involved in that record, but everybody behind as well, because that's a blind fast corner where some of these drivers might have a little bit of an issue seeing that, as Braun trying to hold off Lipp there for third place.
As you can see, blinking the headlights a little bit there, coming around the third turn around this racetrack. That was George Gonzaga, series admin of many seasons here in the Radical Americas Championship, not the Radical Americas Championship, the Radicals period, and also the Radical European Championship. He's quick, very, very skilled racer behind the wheel of these cars, and looking to end this season on a high note. Currently slotted in P5, as maybe got to size up a move on Heinz Braun like Sebastian Lip did a couple of moments ago. It's now Lip occupying the final spot on the podium in third. John Bodefer running a little bit by his lonesome in P2, has a 1.4 second gap to himself and James Berry. However, Sebastian Lip behind the wheel of that 8 machine will be reeling him in soon.
Also, take a look at the running order. Rafa Blanco already making his way up to 10th, so 12th, I should say. So he's really starting to reel in. He's got about 4 seconds to get back to Andres Frederick as we take a look at a replay with Dunkovic, and it looks like that he's going to make some contact there with Andrew Lugg, and they both spin. And not in a good spot either, but nonetheless, they're both able to continue.
An unfortunate moment for those two racers, but just a small little bit of incidental contact isn't going to hurt them too much. Meanwhile, though, we've got a bit of bump drifting action involving George Gonzaga and Heinz Braun down that start-finish stretch off into turn number 1 here. Now, it should be noted that in the European and Americas leagues that are broadcasted here on RaceSpot TV and are organized involving many of these races that you see on track week in and week out from these official races, bump drafting isn't allowed in those series. Here in the officials, on the other hand, you will see these drivers give each other some bumps, and that's exactly what we saw a couple of moments ago between Gonzaga and Heinz Braun, as I think there may have been some more drama involving Andres Friedrich. We take a look at this moment for him, heading his way off through turn number 1, loses on an exit, hits the inside wall. Andres Friedrich's race going from bad to somehow even worse.
Yeah, the inner driver having some issues, but hopefully he can get that sorted out. Jorge Gonzaga, as we said, trying to get into that 4th place now. His 1st, 2nd, and 3rd kind of checked out for the rest of the field. He's closing in on Heinz Braun as he works his way in and around the circuit. Still single file for the most part, but we're seeing Dunkovic and Blanco with the battle. Blanco falling back through the pack once again. Not sure what's going on there. Might have just a little bit of wheel off for our points leader.
Yeah, so Rafa Blanco with a not very good race here at Interlagos, it must be said, but as long as he can keep that car going in a straight line, I think he will still come out of this season with that official championship, and that will be a very good performance from him. It'll now make it 3 different drivers in 3 seasons in a row who are different champions. James Berry won it in season 4 of 2024, and it was Havard Gullikson winning it in season 1 of 2025. If he can hang on, it'll be Rafa Blanco winning it here in season 2. But again, still have a lot of racing action left to go in this race. Still have a lot of racing action left to go until the end of this season. It's been a fantastic season up to this point here in the Red Bull Sports Cup. I've had a lot of different winners, some fantastic racing action. It all got kicked off at the Nürburgring all the way back there in, and that was all the way back in March, if my memory serves me correctly. Time flies when you're having fun in this series, and we certainly like to have a good time on these 2100 GMT broadcasted races that you can catch week in and week out here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. James Berry looking to impress right at the end of this season. I talked about it a few moments ago, Jeremy, talking about how he was a champion in season 4 of 2024. He also won it in season 3 and season 2 and won it in season 4 of 2023. James Berry is a very quick racer behind the wheel of a Radical SR10. Just hasn't really been able to get the results that we've seen from him before, but right now we're seeing that old-fashioned James Berry. He's running strong, he's running smooth. 1.8 seconds down the gap to himself and John Bodefer.
Yeah, no, he's really quick as we're on board at the bottom with Max Goff battling Packy Caruso for 7th. And yeah, we've seen shades of quickness this season from Berry in spite of Blanco, and whenever Andre Castro shows up, him being up near the front as well. So I'm sure James Berry's enjoying every second of being out near the front of this pack right now. Holds about a 1.7 second lead, but he got the battle for 4th. Look back there at that battle for 7th place that's behind that battle for 4th. We see Max Goff all over the back wing of Caruso, but not going to make anything happen through turn 4, still early enough in the race to where you don't want to really risk your equipment too much, I should say. But also, you got to stop and figure. In spite of that engine cowling being behind your head, you still want to keep engine temperatures in mind, especially with Max Goff trailing so close here on those long straights.
And speaking of temperatures, it's a rather good condition that we've got going on right now in terms of the weather. 68 degrees Fahrenheit as the ambient and 72 degrees Fahrenheit as the track temperature. So that is a bit on the cooler end, but still rather nice. Relative humidity, though, at 88%. These drivers are basically running around a big bowl of soup in the form of a racetrack here. So these drivers don't have a completely clean run all the way through to the end, have their own struggles to deal with in these race cars. But I don't think tire temperatures are going to be too much of a concern in reference to overheating the tires around this rather strenuous racetrack. But if you do have some spins, that will probably be when we start to see these drivers struggle when it comes to too much tire temperature. But as it stands presently, they're still running strong. George Gonzaga has jumped his way up into P4. Heinz Braun dropping back down to 5th. Heinz Braun, very exciting driver to follow in this series. Sometimes he goes for some moves that have his competitors a little bit not very amused by some of the moves that Heinz Braun could put on from time to time, but there is no doubt about it that Heinz Braun is a racer that is willing to put everything on the line and get some moves done. And as it stands presently, he's down, but he's certainly not out. You can make up those spots that he has lost ever since the drop of the green flag. And hey, it's only 4.7 seconds off of our race leader, James Berry. So if we have some big drama later on in this race, anything can happen. We could still see Heinz Braun end up walking away with the final checkered flag of this season.
Another driver that's interesting to see at the back is Kettle Larson, sitting there in 12th place, trying to hold off Dunkovic in the 12th spot, the 13th spot, I should say, is Rafa Blanco, sitting in 11th, doing all he can to safely lock down that title. But let's take a look at how many positions have been gained and lost. Bjorklund, the most with 8 lost. Patrick Caruso up 6, so lots of movement here. The only 3 really haven't made too much of a move is your front row, James Berry and John Beaufetter, and Andreas Friedrich, who also had an interesting bit of issues there. But I've got to say this. It always scares me a little bit watching the drivers come off that final corner, because you also have to go through the blend line there. You don't normally see that in most racetracks. And yeah, coming through 14 and 15, you got to stay nice and tight. So that's one of the little quirks here of Interlagos.
And should be noted as well about this version of the racetrack here on the iRacing platform. Bit of an older scan. There have definitely been some updates done to this track over the years that looks a bit more refined than it does in this version in the sim. But hey, it's still the same base racetrack. It's still a fun one here in the sim. And it's gotten some pretty good use out of the other Radicals over the past couple of seasons. As I said, last year played host to the Radical World Finals. I believe it also hosted some races during the European and America's Championship during that season. So it was a fantastic track. It still is a fantastic track. I wonder if iRacing will maybe look at potentially rescanning this place in the not too far off future. I certainly wouldn't mind that. Interlagos is a rather popular track for racers both in the sim and otherwise. I love it. I echo your sentiment earlier on in the show, Jeremy, about how I think it's a shame that F1 doesn't make their season finale here, because it puts on some absolutely brilliant racing with F1, which is really saying something, because F1 usually struggles to put on good racing at most tracks. This track is fun. I really wish that iRacing will get around to doing a new scan of it at some point in the not too far off future. For now, though, we've got this scan of these drivers. They've got a bag of lemonades, and they're certainly making, they've got a bag of lemons, and they're making lemonade out of it.
Well, if they have a bag of lemonade, they'd have to be up north of the border there in Mosport or the streets of Toronto. But nonetheless, Sebastian Lipp trying to get onto the back of John Beaufetter for that second spot on the podium. You also have Max Goff. Oh, look at that wiggle there out of Caruso coming through turn number 4 and heading into 5. That was an amazing save. And that's what these cars, you can have those saves, go on the edge of control, and still be able to save it. But man, I thought we were going to see a little bit of an incident there.
Yeah, that was so close. An absolute disaster between those racers. As much as this track is very conducive to putting on good racing, it could also go wrong rather quickly. One small little change up of a line, and you're going to be in for a world of hurt, as Patrick Caruso nearly ran wide a couple of moments ago, currently slotted in 7th fittingly in the number 7 car. But this track is one where you can go for the moves, you can go for the dives, and you can go through the sends, but if there's any sort of contact, there is going to be a real rude awakening for you if you ever get one of these corners wrong, especially as you're trying to get an overtake.
Sebastian Lip getting inside the mirrors of Beaufort going into turn number 1. So that's actually an interesting move through there. We see Caruso also trying to get around Goff, but look at that, got a little bit slower traffic side by side as Caruso goes a little wide, and he's going to lose 1, maybe 2 positions, and that's the threat you have going through 1, 2, and 3 as Gordon Haig moves his way into 8th place, but they're still side by side for position going into turn number 4. Caruso leaning on Haig just a little bit, but move Caruso back into that 8th spot, so great bit of battling here.
Yeah, that was oh so close between those racers. It's still close as they had their way down into turn number 7. That's Gordon Haug looking to make something work in the number 13 car, and Packy Caruso gets that move done. Caruso having a terrible start to this race, heading his way down now into turn number 8. He's currently slotted in P9 when a matter of 1 lap ago he was in 7th. A real tough series of events for him. Had Goff go for that move, then Gordon Haug followed in suit. If you get a little bit squirrely heading your way off through the Senna S, or a driver goes for a move on you heading off through that section, again goes back to the point I raised talking about the age of this scan. You have a lot more asphalt runoff through that section of the track nowadays than you have in this version in the sim, which is part of the reason why going side by side heading off through that section, especially in these SR10s that are always on the ragged edge of control, is always really hair-raising. And for Packy Caruso, got the short end of the stick in that battle as he's going to look to try and battle back. You can see chasing that drift and going to the inside line of Gordon Haug, nearly getting run all the way down into the pit wall, and oh so close to making contact through the braking zone. He avoids the back of Max Goff, and he gets that move done to jump his way up into P8. But man, Gordon Haug fought like hell to hold on to that spot.
That was almost a Schumacher moment where almost got shoved right into the wall, but this battle for second place, it keeps getting better and better. There is your second place driver, John Beaufort, in the number 1. Behind him, Sebastian Lip in the 8. As they work their way around, James Berry about a second and a half ahead of this battle, so he's not factoring into it whatsoever, but Beaufort trying to do all he can to keep the fast Lip behind him.
And Beaufort doing just about every single thing he needs to do correctly at this present moment. Not really reeling in James Berry, but at the same time, Berry, he's that driver that once he gets a taste of clean air in these SR10s, and once he can get into a groove, that will be when he just is a machine in these race cars. We're seeing that from Berry yet again here as he's still holding on to a nice, comfortable 1.6, nearly 1.7 second lead between himself and Beaufort. And that will increase if we start to see these drivers go side by side, which I can't rule out in the slightest. Sebastian Lip very close to the back of him. Beaufort got to take that defensive line down the start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1. It looks like Sebastian Lip is not going to try and go for that move, but he's still getting in the head of Beaufort a little bit. And in these SR10s where you have to be comfortable, mind games can certainly be a huge factor in deciding whether you do well in this race or whether you do poor.
Yeah, and you've got so many great battles. I'm watching. We've got the 2 battle for second, battle for 4th here. You also got the battle for 8th between Caruso and Haig. We'll keep an eye on that, but these 2 battles really starting to ramp up as we've got a handful of laps left, not only in this race, but in this season, as Beaufort 0.3 of a second up on Lip. Also, now we see the Haig-Caruso battle. They're side by side going into turn number 8 through the S's. And look who else has come out to play. It's Chris Wetz in the 15. So this battle for 8th has now turned into a 3-car battle to stay in the top 10.
And once we start to see some drivers battle tooth and nail, it will start to snowball from there. These racers, they were involved in a 3-car battle involving Max Goff, but Max Goff has been able to say, you know what, I appreciated that battle, I appreciated that excitement, but I also like running a calm, cool, and collected race. So he's just darted off into the distance, currently slotted in 7th. A 1.3 second gap is what he finds between himself and Packy Caruso right behind. Caruso, though, under a whole lot of pressure to remain in that 8th place running spot. As we take a look at the side-by-side racing, maybe gonna flare up for both P2 and P4. It is nose-to-tail stuff presently between Beaufort and Lip for second, and also between Gonzaga and Heinz Braun for P4 in this race. Now, these are some battles that have their own drama associated to them as well. As much as our attention is very much so on that overall championship battle between Havard Gullickson and Rafa Blanco, who, by the way, is currently running at 11th 11th at the present moment. We still want to think and give a consideration to those lesser spots. George Gonzaga has had a very good season up to this point. Sebastian Lipp, haven't really seen him too much in these official races, but some of those racers, especially the ones that you see in those yellow striped inert e-racing team cars, they are fixtures of the Radical European Championship. And as much as it's the Americas racing here this weekend, it's good to get some good results in the officials, because with the breaks that we have in those league race schedules, it's good to keep that momentum rolling. If you have a bad race in one round, let's say some of these European drivers had a bad showing at Bathurst, for instance, you want to build up your momentum before the next round of this season by just getting some good results in some of these official races. And as you said a little bit earlier on, Jeremy, good to have a good race here in the final race of this season to have a lot of confidence heading into season 3.
Yeah, it's all about momentum, as we see now Beaufort are putting on those flashers. Kind of confusing, even though he's about 1.2 seconds behind Barry, but back to what I was saying, you want to have that good confidence going into the next season because it's a fresh start. Everybody's on, they're on a clean slate, so you want to get that going. As we're looking out the back of Beaufort to Lipp through turn number 3 through Retta Oposta. I apologize for screwing that up, but nonetheless, yeah, a little interesting seeing Beaufort waste energy on James Barry, who's 1.3 seconds behind, but he is closing in. Although I think the sands of the hourglass may be running out on the battle for the lead.
And I will say, Jeremy, part of the reason why I usually just say the corner numbers is because I don't want to embarrass myself with the corner pronunciation. So that is a game that I have played in the past. I remember playing that with one of our other pals here at RaceSpot TV, Mr. Hugo Luis Calmon, who is actually from Brazil. And I think I could secretly hear him cringing in the production truck, hearing some of my Brazilian corner name pronunciations. However, since then, I've just refrained. I've called them by the corner numbers. Good to have some corner names, though, on all sorts of different racetracks, and this one's an absolute classic. Has had some brilliant layouts over the years. This one, though, puts on some good racing week in and week out. I gotta say here, Jeremy, I think we may have a battle potentially going to flare up for the race lead. James Barry is slowly falling back. The gap between himself and John Bodefer now to about a second. If Bodefer can break through and gain about 2/10 on him, he'll get the draft. And then James Barry, he is not going to be alone for the final 2 laps of this race. The one thing that Barry's got in his back pocket right now is the benefit of time. Not a lot of time left to go in this race. So if we're going to see Bodefer try and grab this win, he needs to make a charge, and he needs to have it happen now.
Caruso and Haig falling down through the pack, but I figured I'd pronounce the name, see what happens, and maybe get some heat off of Scotty Mack and have Tony Kanaan come my way. But nonetheless, Jorge Gonzaga sitting there in 4th place. He's got Heinz Braun behind him, and that's going to be a battle. See who's going to be in the 4th spot. And look at the timing screen. We're now at 9/10 of a second. So here's the replay with Gordon Haig. It's all once again through Senna. You just go through too fast. It looks deceptive. Ended up making some contact there, but and then spun trying to get back the right way, which is always tough as well. So just that's just the point where you're just like, let's just end the race.
Yeah, no, that is a real kick in the shins for both of those racers. Caruso falling outside the top 10. Gordon Haug slotted in lucky number P13 in the lucky number 13 car. The falling anvil coming down to strike on him clearly as he headed his way down into turn number 1 last time by. But the final lap has begun. The white flag in the air. One more lap of racing action left here at Interlagos, and one more lap of racing action left from this season as John Bodefer has spun from P2. That is going to be music to the ears for James Barry as he now holds onto a 1.4 second lead between himself and Sebastian Lipp. But Bodefer with a moment heading down into turn number 1 and 2. Let's take a look at it here, Jeremy. Big mistake from Bodefer.
Yeah, big mistake, and just a little too high through Senna. Not able to get onto the rumble strip there. And yeah, just too high, too fast. That back end started coming around once again. So we focus on this battle for 4th as Braun looks to the outside through 6 and into 7. As they're trying to go see who's going to finish in the top 5. But nonetheless, Bodefer sitting back there in 3rd place. The podium's essentially set at this time. Just got to figure out who's going to finish where in that top 5.
It looks like that fight between Gonzaga and Heinz Braun is still going to be intense right to the end. You can see Braun maybe trying to look for a move right towards the end of this lap. That would have been some bold and audacious stuff as he headed his way into turn number 10, just not close enough to try and make that move done. Meanwhile, James Berry on track for his first win in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races from this season. The 4-time champion in the past year in the Radical SR10 world, gonna break through and grab his first win in the last race. There's James Berry crossing the line. He wins it here in Interlagos. Sebastian Lipp going to finish right behind in P2. John Bodefer, who may have thought that he had a chance to win this race, going to round out your podium in third. George Gonzaga won that battle between himself and Heinz Braun. It's an inert iRacing team 1-2 between Berry and Sebastian Lipp. James Berry, who won 3 straight championships in 2024, looking to try and break through and get back into championship contention in season 3 of 2025. But Berry doing everything he needed to do, grabbed that race lead early on and never really looked back.
And that's all he needed to do, get a good jump on the start and let the race come to you. Well, almost did come to him, so interesting to see what might be said in the post race, because I would love to get the thoughts of all 3 of them, but can't wait to hear that as the driver's coming down the back straightaway slowly so they can get out and kind of get ready for the race. And hey, it's National Donut Day here in the United States. Why not have some donuts?
Yeah, so James Berry got to be burning it down on the back straightaway, and spare a mention as well to Rafa Blanco, who finishes 9th in this race. Now, we won't be able to figure out who is the official series champion until the iRacing season ends in about 4 days' time, but with his performance here today, I'm pretty sure that it is all set and done for Rafa Blanco to potentially be your Season 2 champion of 2025 here in the Radical Esports Cup. But here are your results for the last round of this championship. It's James Berry finishing in first, Sebastian Lipp in P2, John Bodefer will round out your podium in third. That's George Gonzaga, followed by Heinz Braun rounding out your top 5. Max Goff will finish in 6th, Myron Ayani in P7, Chris Wetz in 8th, Rafa Blanco, who we believe is your champion here in Season 2 of 2025, finishes in 9th, in front of Kettle Larson, rounding out your top 10. Just a few more cars left to go through. Packy Caruso, who was involved in that late stage drama between himself and Gordon Haug, those two finish in P11 and P13, split by the American of Jared Dunkovich. In P14, it will be Andres Friedrich after a very tough race for him. Andrew Lugg will finish in P15, and Kim André Björklund, who had a very dramatic moment heading up the hill at the very beginning of this race, will round out your 16 cars that are classified at the end of this race. And a reminder to all of you tuning into this broadcast here on RaceSpot TV or the iRacing Esports Network, this is not a league race. These are not league events. This is the official action, the top split racing action from the 2100 GMT broadcasted race here from the official Radical Esports Cup series on the iRacing platform. If you have a high enough iRating, tune in to some of these races and want to be out there on the racetrack, just sign up for these races here in the Radical East Cup and you may find yourself here on RaceSpot TV. But I think as we've gotten the results taken care of, Jeremy, we got some drivers looking to have a chat with us, and I will let you take dibs on our race winner of James Berry.
Yeah, let's talk to James Berry, the pole sitter, lights the flag victory. First of all, congratulations. Great win out there. You had a little bit of challenge here. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but let's get your first thoughts on today's win.
Yeah, quite a straightforward race. It was just about myself against the track. It's quite a difficult circuit to be consistent at, but the pace was just the pace was just about good enough to stay away from the slipstream range of the guy behind, who I've never seen him race before, I don't think, in the series, but he did obviously a really good job pushing me all the way to the end. And yeah, in the end, it was just about a good enough job from myself.
As I say, before that spin there, did you think maybe you might have a challenge there in the last couple of laps to have to hold off somebody?
Potentially. I mean, I could see him getting a little bit bigger in my mirror towards the end, and I thought as long as I just keep it together, don't make any mistakes, then he won't be able to get close enough, because there's not quite enough slipstream at this track to pull such a gap in a couple of laps, so it was okay.
And Season 3 coming up here shortly, last race of the season. What are your thoughts going into Season 3?
Yeah, should be good. I'm going to be trying to just do my best and hopefully be challenging for the championship, because in this season I wasn't able to. I picked it up quite late in the season, and hats off, by the way, to I think it was Rafa Blanco who picked up the officials title in the end for the season. So well done to him. And yeah, hopefully next season, it'll be really good. So come watch the races because they will be really good.
4-time James Berry, congratulations, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, cheers guys. See you later. Bye.
Oran, got another driver here, one of the faster drivers up near the front. And we mentioned his name several times. It's Jorge Gonzaga.
Yeah, and George Gonzaga now joining us here in the commentary booth. George, welcome into the booth here on RaceSpot TV for the final race of this official season. Looked like a pretty good race for you out on track here today. How about you talk us through it?
Yeah, it was really good. Last race of the season, so I was fighting for P5 in the standings with Heinz and Andreas. And yeah, somehow I managed to stay ahead of Heinz. I don't know how, but I managed to. There was some little star above looking after me, and I managed to keep the gap. And he did a really fair battle as well, keep me on my toes. But it wasn't easy. At the end of the race, the tires started to give in, and the rear starts to get a bit looser. So it was interesting to try to manage both the tires and Heinz behind me. But it was a great race, yeah.
And it was just one more great race from an overall fantastic season here in Season 2 of 2025 for the Radical Esports Cup, both for yourself and the entirety of the series of first season that's been here on RaceSpot and also the iRacing Esports Network. So I want to ask you about your general thoughts as we leave Season 2 in our rearview mirror and look ahead to Season 3.
Yeah, it's overall it was an amazing season. I think obviously with new partners such as RaceSpot and covering the Friday night broadcast, it was a massive upgrade. Obviously, shout out to Apex and their contribution in the previous years for many years, but obviously RaceSpot opened so many doors for the community and for the league. So reflecting back on this season, I think it was an amazing step. We are very proud to be broadcasted on iRacing channel. So that was a massive achievement, and so yeah, we're really happy with this season. It was amazing. A lot of competition. There was a lot more high-profile drivers joining in. A lot more participation. So yeah, it was an amazing season, and we're really looking forward to Season 3 now and keep going the momentum.
And just from my personal perspective on the broadcast side of things, this wraps up the 10th season that I've had the privilege of covering Radical official action here in this sim. So always happy covering you guys. Y'all put on some absolutely fantastic racing. And actually looking ahead to Season 3 and the schedule, I believe this is provisional. Going to get those official schedules out here in a couple of weeks. But looking through Red Bull Ring, Watkins Glen, Oschersleben, Spa, Thruxton, Nürburgring on the Grand Prix layout, Zolder, Suzuka, Fuji, Sebring. This track here, Interlagos for week 11, and then Hockenheimring to bring the season off to a conclusion. That's a pretty darn good season schedule for Season 3.
Well, first of all, there's no Nord, so I'm extremely happy. And second of all, yeah, we tried to tailor the schedule very well. I think there's a balance between participation and being a challenging for the regular drivers as well. Obviously, we tried several recipes in the past with just having popular tracks, but we also wanted to keep entertaining and motivating the drivers to go beyond their boundaries and what they feel comfortable. So we always try to introduce a couple of challenging tracks. Next season, for example, I really look forward to Thruxton. Is a really interesting track and very fast, and it should be really close and interesting racing. But yeah, I think the balance is spot on. There are 72 tracks on the service. It's really hard for us to be rotating them without having to lose much participation. But I think we're doing a great job, and the community is contributing a lot, because at the end of the day, it's their word, it's their voting, and so a big shout out to the community for keep not just voting on the popular tracks, but also understanding that what is interesting and what is challenging and what people want to get introduced on new tracks and change the same plate every year, I guess. Yeah.
And as much as my beloved racetrack, the Slinger Figure 8, missed out yet again in making the official appearance on the other SR10 official series, it's still looking forward to the racing action for Season 3, and always nice to see you out there on the racetrack here. George, we'll like to give any thanks or shouts out before we let you go.
Yeah, so sorry, there's going to be quite a long list because obviously wrap up the season. So first of all, I think congratulations to Rafa for his championship. I believe this is his first victory. So, you know, he's an amazing driver. He developed so much throughout the years. It was amazing. So a big congratulations to him. Obviously, the week is still not over, but it looks promising. Second of all, a big shout out to RaceSpot for you guys. Like, everyone, a big shout out to Ugu, to the production booth, Ramiro as well, Ron, yourself, Jeremy, everyone. I know I'm missing a lot of people, JR, Ewan as well. So, you know, RaceSpot TV has been an amazing partner. We really love it. And also a big shout out to my team as well. We've done excellent this season. Obviously, we didn't come out with the title, but we're close. We managed to get 3 drivers on the top 5, I believe, which is a really good achievement. So yeah, a big shout out for everyone.
And a shout out as well to you, George. Thank you for everything that you do behind the scenes. And congratulations as well on the other P4 result out here at Interlagos. And excited to see you out on the racetrack for Season 3 of 2025.
Cool. See you guys. Thank you. Bye.
And that right there was George Gonzaga, our P4 finisher at the end of this final race of the season at Interlagos, Jeremy. It was a fantastic season here in the Radical Esports Cup, full of racing action, full of storylines. James Berry may be our champion of this race, but Rafa Blanco set to be our champion for this season. Final thoughts before we wrap things up.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what next season brings. This season brought a lot of great racing action. It didn't matter what the size of the field was. You always had somebody to race with, and I think that's the most important thing here. And we got to see the SR10s and that is the most important thing. I can't wait to see what happens. And hey, you know what? We might even see some of these drivers in one of the real-life regional championships as well. So anything can happen.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff to look forward to here in Season 3 of 2025 for the Radical Esports Cup here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. That doesn't even do it for the Radical action, as you can catch the action from the Radical Americas Championship and the Radical European Championship sporadically on Sundays over on RaceSpot TV. Lots of stuff to look forward to as we switch our attention into Season 3 of 2025. One final thought, though, on this season from a personal note from my end. This wraps up my 10th season being able to cover this series. I did my first ever broadcast with the Radical Esports Cup, at the time known as the Radical Racing Challenge, all the way at the start of Season 1 of 2023. And ever since then, I've grown out of high school, I've grown as a broadcaster, and this series has grown as well. The same names hit the racetrack every single week and put on some absolutely brilliant racing action. And to all of you who've been able to tune into these broadcasts week in and week out on RaceSpot and the iRacing YouTube channel, I hope you have enjoyed the action here from Season 2 of 2025 from the Radical Esports Cup. But for one final time this season, that will do it. So for myself, Ron Mons, Jeremy Scott joining me in the commentary booth, Ewan O'Leary, JR Gregory, who shared the comms with us as well, and also Ramiro Augustine Cineros, who's done a fantastic job working the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler all season long. I say thank you all so very much for watching Season 2 of 2025 from the Radical Esports Cup, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.